Hello everyone. Just a few days ago, Honda and Nissan in Japan finally reached a multi-party agreement and announced that they would start specific negotiations on the merger plan, with the goal of reaching a final agreement by June next year. The general direction is that the two companies will jointly invest to establish a holding company, and both parties will be subsidiaries of the holding company for specific merger to improve their competitiveness in electric vehicles and autonomous driving technology. The decision-making of the new company will be mainly led by Honda. It is worth noting that since Nissan is also the largest shareholder of Mitsubishi Motors, this merger is not just a merger between the two parties, but a major integration of the three major Japanese automakers, Nissan, Honda, and Mitsubishi. It will also be the largest merger and acquisition case in the global automotive industry after the merger of the Fiat Group and the French Citroën Group in 2021. Since Honda and Nissan are the second and third largest automobile manufacturers in Japan after Toyota Motor, this also means that the annual sales volume of the newly established company will reach 8 million vehicles, making it the third largest automobile group in the world after the Toyota Group and the German Volkswagen Group. Of course, before that, there were also rumors that Foxconn was very interested in acquiring Nissan Motor, and there were even rumors that Liu Yangwei, the chairman of Hon Hai Group, personally participated in the lobbying negotiations. And this time Honda and Nissan reached an agreement, which also means that Foxconn is officially out. Foxconn's electric vehicle dream may be even more difficult to achieve than expected. Next year, it may still have to honestly continue to manufacture iPhones. So what is the logic behind this major adjustment of the Japanese automotive industry? What deep-rooted problems of the Japanese automotive industry does it reveal? Has the second round of the knockout stage in the global automotive industry officially begun? So today, let's talk about this topic. First, the first question, is the rout and decline of Nissan Motor in the past year or two really just due to the rise of China's new energy vehicles? I think this question should be looked at from two aspects. On the one hand, the problems in Nissan Motor's strategy and management are not just recent things. It can be said that roughly since 2020, Nissan Motor has actually had serious operating pressure and financial difficulties. From 2020 to 2024, Nissan Motor has had losses of up to 100 billion yen almost every year. In order to cope with the operating difficulties, since the beginning of 2023, Nissan Motor has launched a global layoff plan with a scale of 9,000 people to stabilize the continuously deteriorating financial situation. The problem is that although the cost side has stabilized recently, the sales side has suddenly collapsed this year. According to statistics, from January to November 2024, Nissan Motor's cumulative sales in the Chinese market were 261,700 vehicles, a year-on-year decrease of as much as 10.53%. The decline in the Chinese mainland is somewhat foreseeable, and the even worse situation is that its global market sales have declined. Especially the poor performance in the North American market is the biggest cause for market concern. Especially in the US market, due to the lack of investment in hybrid models, Nissan also suffered a rout in the North American market this year. The sales volume in the first 10 months was only 160,000 vehicles, a year-on-year decrease of as high as 7.7%. To be honest, I have personal feelings for Nissan Motor. My uncle has always driven a Nissan Tina, and my family has also bought a domestic Infiniti before. I have visited the Infiniti Forest store many times, and I have deep feelings for this brand. The car is good, but if I have to use one word to describe my impression of Nissan, that is conservative, very conservative. Of course, the word conservative is just a neutral word and does not carry a derogatory meaning. Nissan Motor's conservatism is not only reflected in its products. An engine can be used for more than 10 years, and a model can remain unchanged for several years. It should be said that Nissan's conservative culture is all round. Since Nissan allied with Renault in 1999, Nissan's entire management system has been very chaotic. Friends who are interested can look at the strange incident in 2020 when Carlos Ghosn, the former president of Nissan Motor, escaped from Japan to Lebanon hiding in what seemed to be a musical instrument box. It can be said that even today, after Ghosn's escape, the after-effects left by the Ghosn era are still continuously hurting Nissan Motor's entire operation and culture. Therefore, Nissan Motor's lack of innovation and the chaos within its management are one of the main reasons for its merger. On the other hand, is there a Chinese factor? I want to say that there definitely is. From the data, according to the data of the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, the production and sales of new energy vehicles in China in the first 11 months of this year were 11.345 million and 11.262 million vehicles respectively, with year-on-year growth of 34.6% and 35.6% respectively. The sales volume of new energy vehicles reached 40.3% of the total sales volume of new cars. In the overall expansion of new energy vehicles, the performance of electric vehicles is particularly outstanding, reaching 1.27 million vehicles in November, accounting for nearly 70% of the global total sales volume. What does this concept mean? In the new energy vehicle industry chain, this is not just a small effort or a general lead, but a huge success and a huge breakthrough. If we use the expression of the German media, Chinese electric vehicles are a destructive subversion. I want to emphasize that the perception of automobile manufacturers is actually relatively lagging. In earlier years, around 2020, the major global Tier 1 parts manufacturers have already had a very strong perception in terms of financial and production capacity data. For example, the recent large-scale layoffs of Denso in Japan and Bosch in Germany and Europe and Japan are a relatively obvious and clear signal. Before 2020, Japan still had a considerable advantage in the motor and electronic control systems. However, in recent years, the rapid progress of the Chinese mainland in the motor and electronic control fields has actually posed a considerable challenge to Japanese enterprises and Chinese lithium battery manufacturers, which account for 40% or even 50% of the cost of electric vehicles, have formed a dominant advantage. Not only does the overall shipment volume of lithium batteries account for more than 70% of the global total, but also China's market share in battery parts fields, such as the cathode, anode, separator, and electrolyte, is close to or even exceeds 90%. Even in the battery film field where Japan had a large advantage in the past, the share has nearly halved this year, with the global market share dropping from 20% to 9.7%. That is to say, in fact, at an earlier time point and in more upstream fields, the new energy vehicle industry chain in the Chinese mainland has already given Japanese manufacturers and major Japanese automotive parts manufacturers sufficient competitive pressure in terms of production capacity, revenue, innovation, and profit. Of course, I must emphasize that this is the choice of the market. That is to say, the Japanese automotive industry, whether in terms of product power, cost performance, or innovation, has long been unable to meet the growing consumer demand of consumers in the Chinese mainland and around the world for automotive technology and progress. Therefore, although there are still a large number of believers and fans of Japanese brands, and there is also a certain inertia, the impact on the vehicle sales end is relatively lagging. It can be said that in the past few years, Korean, French, and traditional American automobile manufacturers have been gradually eliminated and withdrawn from the Chinese mainland market. German and Japanese brands are actually the last wave to be impacted, but the signs of decline have long been evident, and the final decline of the vehicle is just the tip of the iceberg. Then, from the dilemma of Nissan Motor, where are the main problems of the Japanese automotive industry? Here, I have roughly summarized two aspects to share with you. First, although Nissan Motor is one of the earliest automobile companies to launch the Leaf electric vehicle, strangely, in terms of the scale of subsequent electrification investment, Nissan is the slowest, if not the most sluggish, among the first-tier automobile companies, including Nissan's wavering in the hybrid technology route and the stagnation in new energy-supporting facilities. Nissan's decision-making can be said to be very slow. It can be seen that it is extremely difficult for traditional Japanese automobile companies to turn around, and they are very clumsy. This has also led to almost no progress in electrification and digitalization of Japanese automobiles in recent years. This is especially obvious for friends in the Chinese mainland. For example, my father has driven a Lexus for more than 10 years and went for a test drive of the Neo ES7 a few days ago. In his original words, these are two different worlds and two different types of cars. Especially the experience of the car cockpit, which is the most obvious perception for consumers. As long as you have used the intelligent cockpit of any domestic brand now, those old-fashioned central consoles of Japanese cars, which can't even do a good job in high-speed following, are really something you can't go back to. The same is true for Tesla. Tesla has proven with strength that the commercialization of pure electric vehicles is completely feasible. Faster product iteration, stronger software capabilities, and more direct electric drive are the future development directions of automobiles. As far as I know, in North America, many people buy Tesla not really because of the cheap charging, but really because of Tesla's car cockpit and autonomous driving. Many of my American classmates chose Tesla because of the FSD autonomous driving. In contrast, many Japanese automobile executives, including those of Toyota and Honda, have repeatedly criticized the remarks that electric vehicles have no future, their wavering electrification strategies, and their disdain for autonomous driving. Now it seems that they are really naive. It can be clearly stated that the wave of electrification and intelligence in automobiles is irresistible. Just as in the past, strong companies like Nokia, Motorola, and Sony Ericsson could not stop the rise of smartphones. If you fall behind, you will be beaten. If you fall behind, you will be ruthlessly crushed by the times. Then the second aspect, from the reorganization and merger of the three major automobile companies, Honda, Nissan, and Mitsubishi, rather than a more reasonable market-oriented choice. It can be seen that although Japan has promoted the modernization of enterprises and the internationalization of management to a certain extent after World War II, the influence of the old forces of the local conglomerates in Japan on various industries in Japan is still significant and even decisive. Due to some historical reasons, unlike the wolf pack tactics relied on by the Chinese mainland, the rise of Japanese conglomerates has a natural tendency to concentrate industrial resources. Of course, the Japanese conglomerate economy also has its advantages. Mainly, there is a relatively mature long-term coordination mechanism among the conglomerates, and the risk control is relatively stable with little internal deterioration. Therefore, situations like the rapid elimination and clearance at the end of the month similar to that of Geely Automobile are very rare in Japanese society. But the problem is that the conglomerate economy also has relatively obvious drawbacks. For example, the decision-making efficiency is more rongchang, there are few active internal structural adjustments, decisions are often more inclined to interest collusion and internal circulation at the political level of the senior management, and there is a lack of transformation motivation for emerging industries. For example, although Honda Motor is also declining in the Chinese mainland market, it is relatively stable in the global market. However, this time it is forced to take on Nissan, a big burden. Honda's own transformation may also be affected to a certain extent. If Nissan collapses, it collapses. Why drag a big brother down? This is completely inconsistent with the choice of market laws. Therefore, the negative impact of the solidification of the Japanese conglomerate economy on the innovation culture in the creative industries is still ongoing. Finally, to sum up, an industry with $1 trillion scale and an employment market of hundreds of thousands of people, the story of cars and homes, and the integration of technology, self-driving, and the internet in automobiles is really a good business. As everyone knows, because of this, it is also destined that the high-end automobile manufacturing industry is an industry for a few people at the top of the pyramid. In the internet age, with the rise of companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance, and under the wave of lithium batteries and intelligence, the temporary leadership of Tesla, CATL, and BYD, the trend in the technology industry is like this. The waves wash away the sand, and if you don't progress, you will retreat. Judging from the current phenomenon, Japanese automobiles are doomed to be like Nokia, Sony Ericsson in the new era. Well, that's all for today's video. If you have any different opinions, please leave a message below the video, and we can have more discussions. Then, friends, see you in the next video.